Hey, Mike.
Hey, Jay.
Gabe, is this the thing you're talking about where people start by whispering? How does it work?
I will.
How does it work?
I will sign off now.
You'll sign off now. But how does it work?
Watch Gabriel leave?
It's
you want to watch Gabriel leave? Watch this. Hey, Gabriel.
I think you may have actually lost half of the people that were going to watch this video.
Welcome to ASMR with Taylor.
ASMR at Taylor. Well, that being said, I guess we should start the show. We're live. Let's do this. That's
You guys remember Andy?
yeah. I mean, they were talking about him in the feed over here. They're like, I wonder what happened to Lindsay. I mean, let's go back to this feed over here real quick. They were talking about it.
Somebody said Jay's face is missing some stuff. Is it because you don't have egg on it yet?
I don't have. No, I don't. I trimmed my beard down. I always have egg on my face. I mean, it's me. That's fine. Jay's beard is missing some stuff. Remember that one time?
This is a little bit of a new look. You have new glasses, and you trimmed your beard down.
I'm wearing a Rockies hat again.
Yeah,
it's a real new look.
You do look a little like that. Who's that podcast guy?
Bandrew?
Waldo.
Yeah, my wife said that.
No, Rich Roll. You look a little bit like Rich Roll right now.
Oh, interesting.
He doesn't look like Rich Roll.
A little bit right
from
now.
the UK, early morning. Hey, UK. I was there last week. That's why we didn't have a show. That was a crazy trip. So I flew over on Saturday. So I got there on Sunday, acclimated on Sunday afternoon, and forced myself to stay awake and do the whole thing to acclimate. Then had another day to kind of do pre-production and acclimate. Gabe, check this out. And then we shot on Tuesday, and then I flew on Wednesday with all the equipment.
Wow.
They thought I was crazy.
Back?
They're like, you just got here. The guy at the looking at my passport. Where did you go? I was in London, and we filmed at Metropolis Studios, which was beautiful. Holy smokes. We filmed some content with some artists. We're working on these docu-series, this kind of docu-series that's really cool. And we filmed with a German singer-songwriter. Her name is Nicole Milik. She also has a pretty big YouTube following, so check her out. And then Jake Isaac, Gabe. We shot with Jake Isaac. And one of the songs we filmed that he performed, they performed and then did an interview. But one of the songs he performed was on piano. And it was the piano that... who's that one guy from that band Queen? What's that guy's name?
That whole question suddenly turned into my mom. It was great.
Fred,
that one guy.
Yeah, Fred, that guy. Anyway, it was the piano. It was the piano that he recorded everything on, which was incredible.
Yes, Fred Durst was in Queen.
Fred Durst, yeah, Fred. That would be awesome if Fred Durst, yeah. Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. We got Bandrew Scott back on. We're going to talk about microphones. It's going to be great. Bandrew, welcome back to the show, man. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing extremely well, even better since I am now on Taylor Primetime. I watch every week. I love it. I love it.
What do you love about it? Is it the fact that for 4 minutes and 12 seconds we haven't spoken about mics yet?
No, my favorite thing is the fact that you have the support of your mother every single week. That's my favorite thing. Yeah.
Mom sends me text messages now, and she's like, is there going to be a show this week? This is not hate. I'm like, Mom, it's hate. Let's see. Anyway, okay. Well, thank you for coming back, man. We appreciate it. And we love the fact that you're engaging all the time and in the feed and enjoying the conversation. That's great. So we can actually, Gabe, we're going to reminisce with Bandrew about a couple of Mike episodes we had.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Where
Fred
we were
Mercury.
Like, hey, we should probably have Bandrew on this episode right now, and we don't.
Yeah, that's true. Gabe, how you doing, man? How you been?
I'm good. I'm good. I just got back. Of course, I was on vacation a couple weeks ago. We're calling it. I'm saying it's a trip. It was a trip because we took the girls to Disney World, so that's hardly a vacation for me, but it was a good trip.
I hear you.
It's an exciting trip for the girls.
So a vacation in your definition of vacation is like just sitting and doing nothing. What is your idea of a perfect vacation?
I mean, not going to where all the people are like that for sure.
Yeah,
It's relaxing. I walked over 19,000 steps one day, so that was not vacation.
Are you saying paying $22 for a bottle of water is not your idea of fun?
Sometimes it is. It just depends where I am.
It depends on where you're getting the water
That's
from.
right.
Yeah.
But no, it was fine. It was cool. The girls had a great time and everything, and just been back for a couple of weeks and working away.
He's yawning because he's
I'm so
few hours
tired.
ahead of us.
Gosh.
Yeah. Don't talk to me about the jet lag scenario. That was
No,
fun
it's
jet
not
lag.
that. This is my life. But no, I'm great. How are you, Jay?
I'm fantastic, man. Went to London for a quick rip, as they say. Walked around, looked at stuff, went to museums. That was fun, right? Museums are free over there. So it was like I flew in, threw my bags in the room, literally ran and got on the tube and just went and forced myself to stay awake so that I acclimated. But it was fun. It was a really good time. Mike, you've been traveling.
Oh yeah, I've been traveling. Out of the past 25 days, I was home for 5 of them. So yeah,
Really?
a lot of running around, doing events, seeing the people, shaking the babies.
Wait,
that's not it.
Wait.
Shaking the hands,
can't
kissing
do
the
that,
babies.
Mike.
Yeah. I don't shake babies.
What do you do with your dog when?
Russ with the new T5Z Koa.
Nice.
That's tight. Mike got some new guitars recently. I saw.
Yeah, you got some shredder guitars.
I got
Okay,
some
talk
shredder
about
guitars.
that trip real quick, and then we'll get into the show.
Well, really quickly, what everybody really wants to know about is what happens to Roger. Now, Roger is a talented chef, and I just leave him out a lot of food and water, and I leave for a period of time. He knows, to go
He just goes
outside on
full
the
Ratatouille.
I come home, there's like lasagna residue everywhere, and it's like, no, I have a dog sitter for my boy. But yeah, I did pick up 3 guitars last week because I'm crazy.
Wow. Yeah, will you talk to us about those guitars?
The word is
pointy.
addict.
They all look very much like this one right there, except all different fun colors. And I was made an offer I couldn't refuse, that I should have refused, but I did not refuse because I've been in culling mode. I've been selling guitars, not buying them.
Oh, really?
Oh well. So
where were you shopping at, Mike?
I cannot say. I will not say where I was shopping at because
why?
Because I can't.
I love to name drop a good music store.
Yeah. So do I. And if I said Empire Music, I may have said the name.
I almost wore my Russo's shirt tonight, but
have you ever, Bandrew, have you ever been to any, like, what's your favorite guitar store?
I can't even remember this. I think it was Rainbow Guitars when I lived in Tucson.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the local guitar shop.
Yep.
Jeremy Talley from The Bled, which was a band I put a record out. It's turning 20 years old on July 29th. He used to work there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Rainbows. That's still a store, right, Mike?
Still a store. As far as I know, it's still a store. As far as I know, still a great Taylor dealer.
Yeah, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Great name for a store, too.
Rainbow.
There's so many stores named Rainbow.
I know, but like Rainbow Guitars, it's like the idea of on the other side of the rainbow, it's just all the guitars I've ever wanted. It's a good idea. Maybe we should really get into the show now. It's been a while. See, the last time we did this show, we just hopped on here, me and Mike, and it was the most successful show we've ever had. Gabe.
It's because I wasn't here.
Or no, that's a lie. I think the best show we've ever had was probably one of the Bob ones was a few of the Bob ones were good. Andy's are always good. ES2. Yeah. Whoa.
That was a good one.
We struck a nerve with that ES2 episode. That's fun. Anyway.
I've got
Yeah,
some. I'm gonna be doing some stuff with pickup systems pretty quick here.
Yeah, pickup systems.
Why don't you do that?
Some fun things planned.
Fun things with some pickups. Okay, that being said, you guys know how this goes. We're going to talk to our friend here, Bandrew, about some mics in a little bit. We have a couple of segments. You know how we do this. Let's keep this feed clean. You know the deal. You guys are all regular suspects. If you're new to the show, this is a Guitar Nerd talk show. We talk probably too much, but that's totally fine. You're going to enjoy yourselves. This one's going to be super educational. Bandrew is going to do some mic demos real time, so that's super fun. We're going to learn about that kind of stuff. We might even talk about audio interfaces just a little bit. We often get questions about, what's a good audio interface for my recording system at home, my recording setup, etc. So he has brought his favorite, which is I'm really excited for that. We're going to mute every once in a while and watch Roger just run around because Roger's really exciting. I have a very, very special premiere of a musical performance closer to the end of the show. Our good friend Nathaniel Murphy from Chicago Music Exchange did a really cool rendition of a cool song. I'm not going to give it away until you see it, but it's pretty fantastic. I'm pretty stoked on having the opportunity to show that. He might even jump into the feed over here and hang out with us.
We love Nathaniel.
We got zero hate because my mom told me that she wasn't sending me hate texts. So we're good there.
I feel like I need to get my mom to send you some hate texts.
That's fair.
We'll just get into that later.
Yeah. We'll welcome that. But let's do a little segment here. Let's do a segment. Should we play yeah, we should. Let's do it. We're going to play a useless clip, and we're going to do a little segment we call What Are You Listening To? But Bandrew, what are you listening to lately, my friend?
So today, I got around to finally listening to Lizzie McAlpine's latest album. And I have to say, the song Chemtrails ruined me. It ruined me. It's such a good song. That entire album is fantastic.
And by ruined, you mean you openly cried, weeping yourself into a ball in the corner?
Maybe or maybe not. I can neither confirm nor deny that. But
Interesting.
Yeah, that was the latest thing that I've been listening to. But before that, I was going down ska punk rabbit holes.
Yes.
And I came across the Hippos, which I don't know how I had never heard them before.
Really?
Yeah, I had never heard them before, but their album Heads Are Gonna Roll is insane. It is so good.
The Hippos are those guys, all of them as a collective, are some of the most incredible musicians on the planet.
Really?
That's the interesting part about random genres like that, right? That we kind of these subgenres we sit in. But the Hippos are fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah. The melodies, the interesting arrangements,
yeah,
everything was just, my mind was blown when I even bought the CD. So I have that on physical coming later this week.
Wow. You have an actual CD player? That's fantastic.
Yeah, I have a multiple CD players.
Wow. I don't even know what that looks like anymore. I just remember having a 5-disc changer back in the day. And we were doing that thing where you watch Dark Side of the Moon or you listen to Dark Side of the Moon and watch Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
And the next CD in the changer was Radiohead's Amnesiac. And so the way that Dark Side of the Moon starts with Wizard of Oz is you start the CD or album at the third lion roar, at the MGM lion roar at the beginning. Well, it's not the whole movie. We know this, right? If you've ever done this, it's not the whole movie, but it ends right before they tap on the Tin Man's chest to start his heartbeat. And so accidentally, this truly happened. It went bong, bong, bong. And on the third one, Amnesiac started.
Wow.
And then I had the deluxe packaging and it was all like flying like monkeys and witches on broomsticks. And I was like, could this be? Nah. And then I kept it a secret for a while, and now it's out. You should try it. Anyway, Gabe, what have you been listening to?
Well, now I'm gonna listen to that.
Yeah, you are.
yeah.
Right when you're done, you're gonna go up and wake up your kids, and you're gonna be like, "Hey, kids, Wizard of Oz and Dark
Check
Side of the
this
Moon."
out. I like to drop things on them, though. I mean, obviously they listen to like a lot of Disney and
Drop
stuff like
things on your kids.
that. Yeah, like different records and stuff, and get them into things early that that I
Oh,
wish.
I get it.
Yeah,
I thought
I
you were
mean,
like physically.
when I was
dropping.
their age, my dad was playing me like Bob Dylan and Three Dog Night. So like, I'm trying to raise the bar a little bit. So, I've been listening to the new Josh Ritter record, Spectral Lines, a lot. And there's a song on the beginning called Sawgrass, which my youngest kid is like really, really into. One of my dad's friends, Jeffrey, just put out a new record too that I've been listening to a lot. And I've been listening to Snoop Dogg a lot also, but mostly talking.
Snoop Dogg's awesome. That's all I got. Mike, what have you been listening
He's a
to?
character.
Well, being on the trips that I go on, I sometimes listen to audiobooks, and downloaded the extended super deluxe unabridged version of The Stand, which
Wow.
in
What does
audiobook
that look
form,
like?
it's
What is that?
It's 48 hours of audiobook. It's 2 full days of audiobook. So yeah, like most audiobooks, if you've never downloaded an audiobook, they're like 6 hours,
Yeah.
7 hours, sometimes
Yeah.
10 hours for like a
Right.
like a
Like a
tome,
really
you know?
long book is 10
Yeah.
hours.
But
48
the extended
hours.
super deluxe part, like
Yeah, it's
at the end of it, are you wake up and you're in an asylum already, or
dude, I don't
What is
know.
that
All I
like?
know is that there's a lot of filler, and I could see why he was told to cut this down
you're
initially.
like, so good
I mean,
editors are important.
I'm enjoying it, but that's that. But anyway, on a musical side of things, and this is the year's half over, and I'm giving it album of the year, and that's the new Foo Fighters album that is very white, and you can't see their name on it, but this is it,
Yeah, it's pretty good, man.
and it's called "But Here We Are," and it's so good. I mean, it's astoundingly good. Now, I like the Foo Fighters. I don't like everything by the Foo Fighters. My favorite albums are the first 2, and they've made lots of great music since. Don't get me wrong, but exactly, Roger. He's with me on this one.
Roger's like, yeah,
Roger's all about. He's like, yeah, first 2 albums. But this album, I mean, obviously we know about Taylor Hawkins. He passed away. But one thing that wasn't in the news was that shortly thereafter, his mother passed away.
Yeah.
And this album was written after all that.
Yeah.
And it's all in the lyrics. Like, it's all in the lyrics. It's the songs are good, and they get you right in the feels. And if you listen to this album and you don't get choked up at some point, you are an unemotional robot. It's that good. So highly
Unemotional
recommended.
Robots.
what
Also a good
about
band
you, Jay?
name.
Great band name.
What records
Great
have
band
you
name.
been spinning since we last chatted
The
about music?
new Ben Harper record is called Wide Open Light. That record
Saw
is
a bunch of great reviews about it.
it's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. The record actually starts, excuse me, with a lick that he just made up on the spot at a Taylor shoot. So it was really reminiscent of that when I listened to it. But there's a song on there called "Growing Gone." I believe it's about his kids. It's the same thing. It's Mike. It's the same thing where if like you listen to it and if you have kids or a dog named Roger, or a lot of microphones, like they grow and then one day they'll be gone. Anyway, it's fantastic. It's beautiful. The band This Wild Life, there's a emo acoustic band that we work with pretty closely. They have a new record that's coming out, and might have gotten a sneak peek of the entire thing. It is phenomenal. A lot of Frank Turner. If you're familiar with Frank Turner, punk rockers like Frank Turner. He's a British dude. It really finds himself in the punk rock scene a lot. And then the new Rancid record. The new Rancid record is called Tomorrow Never Comes, and it's fantastic. Oh man. That's
Hey, by
me.
the way, Jay, while we're on that topic, so we always talk about while we're on this topic, we're never on topic. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I mean it's been 19 minutes and 46 seconds.
I know,
We're
that's
not
why
on
I'm
topic.
stalling. But we always talk about what we listen to, and last time when Jay and I were together, we made this really cool playlist with the help of everybody in the feed. So at the end, if there's time, we're going to do the same thing again. And what we want is we want to hear a song of what you're listening to, and we'll fill a Spotify playlist with that. So we're going to do like,
Oh, that's a great
what are we
idea,
listening
Mike.
to as of today? And just think of it. We'll cue you at the end to start filling in the feed with all those songs, and then we'll put it all together at the end. So we wanted to be interactive for you guys because everybody really seemed to like it, and the playlist we made with Taylor artists is amazing.
Topic. Right, Phil. Topic? Who needs a topic? Yeah, that's a really good idea, Mike. And should we add it to the ultimate playlist then? The Primetime playlist?
Well, the one that we did, that was the ultimate Taylor artist playlist. Those are all Taylor artists. This will
So
just
we
be,
should do
I think it should
Primetime
be a
episode 93.
playlist.
Holy smokes, Mom, we did 93 things.
Yeah,
93 things, Jay.
93 things.
Andrew, we did 93 things. Anyway, okay, that's wild. We're knocking on 100. I
Yeah.
almost did an Axl Rose impersonation that was terrible, but
It still would have been better than Axl Rose is now, though.
ooh.
Sorry, I'm a little salty this week.
He's still got it.
Yeah, man.
He's still got it.
What does he still got?
His scratchy, crazy, I just gargled with broken glass voice.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna get on to we're gonna do something. So I want to do something new a little bit before we get into these discussions. I love the reactions we get from the audience and from the feed and from everybody when we show a couple of guitar clips and talk about those guitars. So this episode has been brought to you by the Builder's Edition 324 CE and
Ooh.
the GS Mini E Mahogany. These are
And the
two
letter Q.
guitars. Huh? What?
and the letter Q.
Yeah, right. Hey, I froze for a second. That was tight. Anyway, so I want to play some clips and talk about these guitars. We got this sales guy down in the corner here, Mike, who deals with the market all the time and sells these guitars into stores and spends time with people who are interested in buying guitars. So we'll talk to Mike about that. And I love Gabe's opinion. Gabe comes in here. He actually helps create all this content. So Bandrew, I just want to hear how you feel about these two guitars. So the first guitar clip that I'm going to play is the Builder's Edition 324. Let me find it. Here we go. Our good friend Nicholas Veneglu playing. It's about 40 seconds long. We'll be right back and then we'll talk about it. Just such a good guitar. I think that guitar, Mike, is wildly underrated.
It is, when I talk to people in stores about that guitar, my line is, and that's not to say that other guitars aren't better sounding. Again, tone is subjective. Well, that's a whole different topic right there. But dollar for dollar, pound for pound, that's probably one of the best values that Taylor offers is the Builder's Edition 324 CE. Between the quality of tone that you get, the playability you get being a Builder's Edition guitar, it is strikingly amazing. And I love that guitar very much so. It's a great guitar. And the story being that the sides and back are urban ash, matched with the mahogany top. It tells that story too about our sustainability concerns. It has all the playability with the contour cutaway and the beveled armrest and the rolled off edges, all of that at a price that's, better than some other offerings in our line, for lack of a better term. I don't want to say it's cheap because it's not cheap, but
a Builder's Edition guitar at that price point. What is the price point on it?
Anyone?
Oh, do I have to look?
I memorize all kinds of stuff, just not prices.
Prices are subject to change. Last I knew it was $29.99.
Yeah, I mean prices change, but for around $3,000.
31.99 is what I'm seeing online right now.
That's probably right.
Right.
In fact, it's $32.99 actually.
But
So if
so
somebody has
for
a $31.99, fix that.
a builder's edition instrument, it is spectacular.
Yeah, I mean
That is
it's
a good price point.
It's the entry level price point for Builder's Edition.
Yeah.
So,
Gabe's
anything
the
after
entry
that-
level position for yawning over here.
Wow, Gabriel.
It's been a long week.
It's Thursday.
The dulcet tones of Mike Venezia just relax me so much.
Hey, Gabriel, I got something else for you.
Oh, it's so dark.
Can I cancel? Can I cancel on you guys?
Yeah, you can cancel. All right. All right. So Builder's Edition 324 CE, such a fantastic guitar. If you haven't checked one out at a dealer, go do so. They're spectacular. And then the next one is just, it's a home run, like no matter what. And of course, so GS Mini E Mahogany, I got Tim Godwin to play it. So this is what a GS Mini Mahogany can do. I'd love your feedback in the feed over here. Air Supply McGee over here
Fantastic.
playing.
Right.
I mean, how good is that guitar?
It's amazing. And plus, you know what it is? It's not the price of the instrument. Tim's hands cost a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean,
He's
Air
got
Supply.
that whole 10,000 hours thing down.
Those are both two guitars that I feel like are kind of better than they should be. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They sound like so much guitar for in the class that both things are in, not a lot. The 324 CE for the Builder's 324 CE for me is like one of those guitars where if you really are looking for a good all-around sound that can kind of do a if it can do a lot of things and it can fit in a lot of different spaces, that's a really good guitar to go to. It's also I think a really good entry point for Taylor for people in a lot of ways. People who are looking into higher end guitars but don't necessarily play a lot of Taylors because it's a very different guitar than a lot of other things. Like it really stands out amongst other guitars.
True.
And then GS Mini, like everybody should have a GS Mini. They're just great. They're awesome.
I feel the same way. So now, Ears McGee up here in the corner, Bandrew. That's your new name.
Are we all
okay.
McGee? We're like the traveling Wilburys over here.
Yeah, McGee's are my favorite. I love that last name, by the way. So, Bandrew, you just heard both of those guitars.
Yeah.
You haven't played them. I don't believe you have a 517.
517, yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts just hearing those guitars on behind a KM84?
I'm not jealous about that at all, but I loved the top end on the first one. It just seemed so lively. It was so exciting to listen to. The second one sounded a lot more punchy. The GS Mini just sounded like you could really hear the articulation on his fingers. Just sounded fantastic.
Do you
and
see?
just from a salesperson perspective, we would be remiss not to mention this, but we are running Taylor Days as a promotion again as of yesterday. So your participating Taylor dealer.
It is the summer sales event.
Summer
Just
sales
what we're
event.
calling it. Yep.
So Taylor Days is the summer sales event, which is a buy one, get one at a very tiny price deal. Say both of these guitars, say you bought that Builder's Edition 324 CE, you can get that GS Mini Mahogany for $199 right now.
US.
So, US dollars. Yes.
Yeah,
In
so
Canada,
that's what it
Canada,
looks
it's a little
like.
bit different. In Europe, it's different. But
Yeah.
here in the US, that's what it would be. So
There is information on our website about this sale, if you will. but check it out. It's a dealer event, right? For a lot of dealers that are involved in it, correct?
Yes, if they're participating, yes.
Yeah. All right. Some dealers may not participate, but I believe most are.
Yes.
For example, is Empire?
Yes.
Oh, well then, there you go, Gabe. You can drive over and see Joe Ravita and buy a couple of guitars.
I haven't seen my buddy Joe in a little while. I need to get over there. I wanted to get over there for their super cool guitar event this week.
And
But
you
that
were
didn't
not
happen
there.
because you're tired.
It didn't happen because I was working.
All right. All right. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. It's been 30 minutes and 40 seconds. And we're now going to talk about microphones. Man, we talk too much. But I think it's been pretty good so far, right? We got some good content here. Good discussions. Bandrew.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
here's the deal. Bandrew Scott. So Bandrew has a podcast called live. It's a YouTube channel called Podcastage, where if you're not familiar with what he does, maybe you can tell us what you do. So Bandrew, for those who don't know you over in the feed, you have been on the show before, but what in the heck do you do?
I yell into, I demo, and I review microphones to hopefully give people a better understanding of how those mics perform, what might fit their needs, and then ultimately, hopefully, the goal is to help them make a more informed decision so they waste less money and get a better sounding recording.
I love this. And when did you start? Like, when did you start the actual YouTube channel? And then, but also follow that up with, when did you get interested in microphones or recording?
So I started the YouTube channel in 2015, but I started recording out of necessity and very, very poorly. And there will be people in your comments that say he's still recording very poorly. Take it easy. But I started recording poorly since 2000 because my bands just needed to record demos before we actually pay for studio time. But not real much interest in mics. It was just, there's a Radio Shack. I have $30. What mic can I get? That's how it started.
Gabe, we know that one all too well, don't we? Like sometimes sometimes you just need to record something, and it's like it's the only thing that works.
That's really, my dad had a 4-track and some Radio Shack microphones. Some of those little like built-in cord built into the microphone, quarter-inch end trashy microphones, and that's how I got started too.
It's
Radio
the
Shack.
saying, the best mic that you have, or the best mic is the one that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
Radio
know.
Shack. It's top tier. Exactly. On the same page, Robert.
Top tier. Mike, when did you get into recording?
Oh, geez. It was something that I when I started doing it myself, came from going to studios with my friends and watching them do it.
Yeah.
And it was always this sort of like mysterious, how the sausage is made kind of thing. Cause I'm a geek, I mean, I build my own computers. I like to see how things are made, and I like to ruin it. And then I do it right later on. So as all of us can probably attest to when it comes to recording. So I finally ponied up and got my first Tascam 488 in like the mid 90s. And that was like the thing, it had like faders and knobs, and it was
4-tracks were the best.
4-track, and I learned how to bounce tracks and make it into a 10-track, and it sounded so hissy you couldn't hear the music, but it was cool. And then, like, you make the mistake of, let me put this in my cassette player, and you only hear 2
I was about to
tracks.
say that.
You can't hear.
I'm taking this
half
one to the
song,
car.
So, like, oops. Oh, wait, I need to put this into something else. Crap. So for me, it started like going to studios, watching how it's done, trying to do it myself, and then when I was working in the music industry, seeing how it's really done. And, watching, producers like, Ulrich Wilde and Sylvia Massey and like all these amazing, like hard rock and heavy metal producers do their magic, and watch how it comes together. And I went, I am not built for this. these are people that grew up with this, and this is like intrinsic with them. I'm going to make just cool demos for me and leave this to the pros. So, but however, over the years, just like all of us,
Gabe needs a coffee.
Gabe needs a coffee,
You're right.
We've all become pretty good at the bedroom recording kind of thing now, especially after the pandemic when everybody got their shot at it.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting time for recording, that's for sure.
Well, I love that you mentioned Sylvia Massey, who's like the queen of recording with weird microphones, weird trashy microphones,
dude.
and making them great.
Yep.
Microphones can do so many things, man. If you just think about what if you can imagine a sound you're trying to get and you can make that up. I'm sure you've heard me talk about, I think it was, speaking of Dave Grohl. So Dave Grohl produced Juliette Lewis's second full length. And we were in the studio and they wanted a guitar solo that sounded like it was in the middle of an empty Madison Square Garden, right? And so I'm thinking and just getting nerdy. And I had a bunch of those little smoky amps. Remember those? So they would take like Marlboro Reds and like create an amp out of it, put an input and an output and etc. So I was like, oh, I got an idea. And I was like, give me like 45 minutes. Probably in LA, it was like, give me 3 hours because I got to drive a mile. But so I went to the Home Depot and bought a Weber grill and then just I think we had like an EV Electro Voice Raven mic. And I put it kind of close mic'd it, I put about 3 inches in between that and the Smoky and put it in a Weber grill and had Todd do his solo on this part. And it was like, sounded like the biggest room in the world. I mean, there's so much you can do with microphones. Let's talk about it.
And then he made burgers for everyone.
That wasn't when he wasn't into grilling. He's so into grilling right now.
You, but I was just trolling you.
I want Dave Grohl to make me barbecue.
He like does that, doesn't he?
Does
like
that.
tours
like
and like
thing.
has like a smoker and a grill.
Totally, 100%.
Wow.
He's great at it. So
wow.
Anyway, I find that often using weird like this thing that looks like it's made of cardboard back here is an old Dan Electro amp that is one of my favorite amps to record. It has 2 knobs. It has a volume amp and a tone amp, and you turn the volume all the way up and turn the tone wherever and just play hard, and it sounds cool.
Oh, that's so rad. So that being said, let's talk about microphones. Bandrew, also I want to challenge you. I think this would be, you know how people say they have the bucket list. My bucket list. One of mine is to go watch a ball game as a home team fan in every ballpark. Like I want to go to Colorado. I want to be a Colorado fan. Or, Gabe did that at St. Louis. He went to a St. Louis game and he put on a St. Louis hat.
Yeah,
and
great.
Just, Mike did that with me in Philly, et cetera, et cetera. So
anywhere but the Cubs for me.
Oh, that's dumb.
Or the Tigers. No,
that's so dumb. You got to go be a Cubs fan once, dude. No, I'm sorry if they demolished you in 2016.
Barely winning is not demolishing.
No, they demolished you because they actually won. Anyway, okay. We keep talking. We're talking too much. Anyway, so Bandrew, here's my challenge. What if your bucket list, our bucket list is to go to every really famous recording studio? Huh?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect bucket list.
Sweet would that be? I was at Metropolis last week and I was like, oh man, Queen made records here. Yeah. Yes. I mean,
just for artists to go to different studios, the inspiration you get from that is amazing.
You can feel Andy Powers always says, you can feel the angels on that old guitar, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how you feel it. When you walk in there, you're like, oh,
yeah,
this was made here.
All right. Historic studios definitely have a fun vibe. Jay and I have gotten to work out of like Southern Ground Nashville a few times and some cool places. And yeah, like there's a lot of places I'd love to go to Abbey Road.
Abbey Road's great,
but I want to work out of it. I want to like shoot some content there and like actually use microphones and boards in there. And
Speaking of microphones, we're gonna lose the whole world if we don't start talking about microphones.
Jay,
got
can we
this
talk about
wonderful
how to
guest.
make a great steak first? I think we need a different topic altogether, if you don't mind, for the next 20 minutes.
You want to talk about pedals? I got some pedals we can talk about anyway.
Let's
I
talk
just
Sigma
got a new
chain
pedal. Let's talk
and-
about.
All right, Bandrew, I would like you to take it away. So when I asked you to be on the show, we were talking, there's so many different ways to do this. You could do your top 5 or your top 10 or your favorites or whatever. So I really just wanted to put it in your hands. I would like you to walk us through a demo or a 15, however many mics you have, and tell us who, what, where, when, and why. And
What are you using now for starters?
Yeah, what are you using now?
Right now, I am using Lewitt's new tube microphone. This is the Pure Tube. I have to say this, full disclosure, this was sent to me by Lewitt. It's on loan, so just for FTC rules, I have to disclose it on loan. But that's what I'm using, and the big thing about this is the self noise. As you know, with tube mics, it's an antiquated technology, so the noise floor of them can be pretty high. They got this one down to 6 or 7 dBA, which is just bonkers. Just bonkers how quiet this thing is for a tube. So that's what I'm on right now.
It sounds great. It sounds amazing.
It does sound really good,
Yeah,
man.
it does sound very nice. I have not used a lot of their mics, but I've heard great things.
You should definitely check them out. I'll give you an email address, and maybe they can get in touch with you and let you try some stuff out.
I wouldn't be sad about that.
Yeah.
No.
Can you loan a loaner?
Can you loan a loaner? All right, Bandrew, go for it. Tell us what you got on the roster today. The mic menu.
I have too many mics in front of me. I don't have an overhead shot, but there's 15, 20 of them. We're not going to do a demo of everyone because we'd be here for 4 hours. But I wanted to start with one category that I think is most fitting for the audience here. Taylor guitars, acoustic guitars. When I think of acoustic guitar mics, I think small diaphragm condensers. So I want to start by pointing out that I don't think there's a better time to get into recording than right now because it is so accessible and it is so affordable. The first recommendation, not my favorite sounding microphones, but in terms of value, it's insane. They're Behringer C2s. I think it's $60. You get a set of 2 of them. You get a stereo bar. And if you're just getting into recording and you want to start playing around with stereo miking techniques, I really don't think you can go wrong. But they are affordable. QC is not the highest, not the greatest sound, but in terms of learning, fantastic for the price. So let's talk about the good stuff. The first small diaphragm condenser, and I will test one of these out so you can hear it on the 517, is the SE Electronics SE8. A lot of the mics that I like and recommend the most are more neutral sounding. They don't have that very common huge boost in the presence and treble region. They're just a little bit tamer, a little bit more neutral, and a little bit more realistic. So the SE8 is around $200. You could get a stereo set, a matched stereo set for $400 or so. I may be wrong on that price, but really natural sounding and sounds great on the acoustic. If you want something, I think this is used for drums a lot. I don't work on drums, so I don't know, but I think I saw people talking about it. The Shure SM81.
Bingo.
This is very natural sounding.
A
People
favorite
might
of mine.
Really? Okay, good to know.
Yeah, that's a favorite.
Great
Favorite
mics.
of mine on
Great
acoustic
mics.
guitar.
Yeah. People might think it sounds a bit dull, a bit boring compared to some other SDCs, but if you just want that natural sound, really great. And this is $400-ish. And then my stretch, my dream SDC, sure, the KM84, but I don't have one of those, so I have to slum it with the KM184. And this is one that I'll demo for you on the acoustic. You may have to entertain me or entertain the audience and me while I set it up, so it's not just dead air, but...
Hey, guys, let's be totally quiet.
Can I do ASMR again? I'll do more ASMR noises while Bandrew sets this up. which
Here, we
Yeah,
can go back to
terrible.
this screen real quick.
SM81 is a mic we've used a lot filming
Yeah.
content. That and another Shure mic, the KSM 141 or two that I've always just used a lot. I mean, you can any good studio in the world you go in, you'll see an SM81. It's just one of those things that you always have. If you just need something quick and you need to know it works really well
It's
for like
just
acoustic
a good
guitars, things like
microphone,
that. It's just a nice, warm sounding microphone. It just,
And as was mentioned, they're great as overheads for drums and things of that nature. I mean,
Yep.
they're fantastic for that. You just get two of those, put them over the top, and have a nice day. He picks up pretty much everything. And yes, we are feeding the ducks.
so good.
He wanted entertainment. He got
It is
entertainment.
far better than ASMR. Feeding the ducks definitely trumps ASMR. That is 100%. So,
Okay.
unless we
I
can
think we
combine.
got it. He mu-
Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about your mic placement preference?
Yes, I can. That's a bit quiet. Let me keep bringing it up. Bringing it
Oh,
up.
there you go.
Can
We
you
got you.
hear me? You got me.
I got you
It's
now.
a bit hot. So the way that I approach, I would love to play around a lot more with my miking technique for acoustic, but because I review, I try to keep it as consistent as I can from video to video. That's why I just play the 517. I just wanted...
Actually, I do have a question on that end. So what is your signal chain from the mic when you're recording? Like, what are you putting it through? Is there any processing? Is it naked? Like, how are you doing this? Because you want to keep it consistent, as you said.
Naked, raw. I'm not even using a fantastic interface. I want it to be as useful for as many people as possible. And the most popular, the best-selling interface is the Focusrite Scarlett series. So that's what I run all of my mics through. If it's a higher-end mic, I'll also run it through the Universal Audio X8, and I'll also include some outboard pre-tests as well. Universal Audio LA610, and it's not a proper, whoa, sorry about that. It's not a proper 1073, but the Warm Audio 73, just to give a few examples.
Great. Thank you.
And as far as the placement, I try to keep it about a foot away from the guitar, and I put it around the 12th to 15th fret, angled slightly towards the body. That just gives me the most even sound. So that's what I do. And just to give you a bit of a demo on different placements, because that's really helpful. When I first wanted to mic up an acoustic, the first thing I thought is sound hole. That's where the sound comes from. I'm going to put it there. It doesn't sound very good there. So just to demo that placement and why it may not be the best.
So if you
Just-
guys hear when Bandrew does that, you get this kind of woofy, big low end bloom that it just kind of very quickly overdrives and sounds like a hot mess. And that's because the amount of air coming out of the sound hole is so significant that it just kind of drowns everything else out.
Yeah, so something about 12 inches away, 12th, 15th fret angled slightly towards the body, right where the neck meets the body is the route to go. And the reason why small diaphragm condensers is what I typically recommend for acoustics is it just has a more realistic sound. It sounds more like you're in the room. I don't know exactly why. I'm not a theoretician, but LDCs, dynamics, ribbons can sound fantastic. But small diaphragm condensers they're made for acoustics.
Right.
They're definitely going to be more detailed and more kind of articulate.
Yeah, faster transient response so you get that attack.
Yeah.
So that's the SDC side of things. I have a large diaphragm condenser set up, so I can just demo that. Let me just turn this guy down.
Bandrew was talking a little while ago while he turns that down about self noise, about the self noise of the microphone. Large diaphragm condensers in general will have lower self noise than small diaphragm condensers. Small diaphragms are usually more articulate. So if you're playing like fingerstyle or you want to do things that are more nuanced, a small diaphragm is going to be a better way to go kind of across the board.
And if some people are wondering like why small condenser, think about it this way. If you've ever played live and you see lots of, 412 cabinets on stage, right? They're not putting a large condenser, a large diaphragm microphone in front of them. They're using like an SM57, which is like this big, to really pinpoint and get that focus, that sound that's going to be very narrow in a sense, but not narrow in tone. It's a very narrow focus, giving you a big tone because it's focusing on that one area. And so I think if you think of things in that way from a smaller perspective, no pun intended, when you think about it when you're recording, it's even more so. And when you add the condenser aspect to it as opposed to a dynamic mic, it's even more so.
Phil, this is a great every guitar, it's worth noting that every guitar can be a little bit different. One of the things that Bandrew does so well, and I was a longtime fan of Bandrew's channel before he came on here, is he is replicating consistency so that you can hear differences in microphones.
Right.
What somebody like me is most of the time going to do is try to represent the sound of the guitar, which is a different goal. So the way I mic a guitar might be a little bit specific to that, or the mic I choose sometimes might be specific to the instrument and the player. In a situation like the videos you're seeing on like Taylor's website where the mic is in exactly the same spot,
8
the
inches.
exact same microphone, it's all measured out. The idea is to give you the best representation of that guitar in the exact same circumstances so that you know what it might sound like in your hands in your room. Sometimes when I'm in the wild, I'm trying to accomplish things a little different, in terms of like artist expression and that kind of stuff. So, depending on how you play and what you're doing, you may want to adjust the mic position slightly and move it around and just experiment with different sounds based on how you play, the pick you use, those kinds of things. One of the things that Bandrew has set up there that is so cool is this arm that he's able to articulate and move the mic around on, which is just fantastic because you can hear a lot of sounds very quickly. I crudely in my studio have a rolling chair, and I'll set up a microphone and I move myself. So
there you go.
Yeah, I think that was really well said, Gabe. And I agree completely and totally. You gotta sometimes take a step back and go, there are different goals in every single recording. Like I might be the king of weird, right? Gabe and I talk about this a lot. We'll talk about how a lot of studio engineers like to be safe because they know that is the mic that works really well on an acoustic guitar or drum overheads or for a kick drum or for a snare, etc. Right? They know they have safety. So every single time they're going to put it in the same spot because they know that they're going to get something just right. I'm the guy who's like, move that thing around. Holy smokes. It might be perfect 2 feet away. You don't know, right? So I'm not a very safe audio engineer. I like to try and find different nuances of the instrument. And then Gabe, he taught me a long time ago, it's often not the mic. You've said it. It's mic placement that's going to get the best. Mike, speaking of mics.
Yeah, just what I wanted to add really quick, and I'm sure Bandrew will fully agree with this, the consistency that he's installed in these demos that he does brings out the inherent characteristic of what the mic is going to do.
100%.
So, I mean, you could always work around those things, but what he wants to do is show you, like, if it's a TLM 103, well, that might be a little bit brighter. If what he's showing might be a little bit warmer, that's what that mic is going to do no matter what, using this same guitar. So the guitar is sort of like the bass, the bass line there, right?
The cookie.
And the same thing is like the placement. So all of that is static. The one thing
Exactly.
that's changing is the mic, so that if you like the way that mic, those characteristics of that mic, that will work for you, and then you work around that like Gabriel does or like Jay does after the fact. But knowing what that characteristic is from the outset, that's the important thing.
Yeah,
If
bingo,
you
Mike.
go back to 7th grade science class when you learn like the scientific method, you want as few variables as possible, meaning you want to test one thing. Bandrew is testing the microphone, not
Yeah.
the placement, not the guitar. He's probably using the same pick every time on a guitar. He's using his voice all the time. He's not using 3 different people's voices. Like he's getting consistency so you can hear what the mic does with things that are familiar. Another person that I like that does that is like Tony Policastro. A lot of people follow him, right? He plays the same 3 things on every guitar.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's demoing the guitar.
He's demoing the guitar.
Right.
There's
So the signal chain is the
consistency,
same,
so
and he's demoing the guitar. Let's
Yeah.
get back to these demos, and then we'll answer some of these questions down here. We
I
keep
want to
talking
add
too much.
I want to add one thing on there. Sorry, my levels are all messed up. I turned off the processing, but this kind of goes back to what Ben said on the prior microphone episode, that the microphone selection is like selecting a paintbrush or selecting the paint. And it's
Yeah.
the exact same thing with a microphone placement. It is just a tool. And when
that's
you are making
really
a
well
piece of
said.
art, it is trying to convey that emotion, convey that idea, not just, I'm going to set up the microphone in this one place. If that's what the art requires, absolutely. But you need to play around and experiment. That's the fun part of recording, experimenting with different ideas.
Real quick, Bandrew, before you go, this is a really good question. Why is smaller better, though? We're trained to think bigger is better. Phil, by the way, is fantastic. We love Phil, and the fact that he watches every single show. He will hit you with the best one-liners or questions. So
Yeah.
this is a really good question to you. In simple terms, why would you choose small over large? I know we talked about it a little, but
Yeah.
why would you choose that?
So small diaphragm condensers, I just get a more realistic sound out of it. It sounds more like I'm actually sitting in front of the instrument or the sound source that I'm recording. Large diaphragm condensers can sound very natural, but as far as the SDCs, I may be off base here. I believe they have a more neutral off-axis coloration, so if you get sounds coming in from the sides, the reverb, it's going to be less colored than a large diaphragm condenser.
Great. Love it. Thanks. Next demo.
Yep. All right, this is the tube mic. So you're getting 2 things, a large diaphragm condenser and what a tube mic sounds on a 517.
Now, Bandrew, while we have you standing up for a second, I wonder if you could, because you were just talking about it, and it's a great thing for people to understand when we talk about on-axis and off-axis. Can you demonstrate a little with the guitar what that means?
Yeah. This is on axis, so. I'm pretty sure you could all hear how
Drastically different.
drastically different and mid-focused. You lose all the detail in the highs. Sounds a bit honky. So that's what I mean by off-axis coloration. And you're not going to be miking up your guitar like that. You're not going to be pointing the side at it unless the art requires it. But what that's going to impact, all the sound reflecting around the room. And with acoustic instruments, you want to capture a bit of that room because acoustic instruments aren't just dry. They aren't just dead. They're in the room. So you want to capture some of that, and you want it to sound as good as possible.
Here's an interesting comment. Maybe we could get, did you see this one, Gabe? I'd love to be able to cut down the over metallic string sound, which is really interesting because some people love that and some people hate that. And sometimes it's polarizing, right? but I love it when it's used right.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
have a
sitting on kind of
feeling-
both sides of the fence.
I have a strong feeling I know what Bandrew is picking up right now, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be some kind of like ribbon mic, maybe.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Mic
So-
nerds unite.
This is my outlier here. I had the small diaphragm condensers. I'll talk more about my large diaphragm condenser picks, but since it came up, this is my single ribbon mic pick, the Beyerdynamic M160. And the reason why I love this ribbon is because it still has that incredibly smooth sound quality that you go to ribbons for, but it has an extension into the air so you don't completely lose it. It doesn't come across sounding dead or dull. It is just a unicorn in that regard for ribbons. So
right.
I'll go ahead and get this one set up.
So, ribbon microphones. While Bandrew gets this set up, I'll talk a little bit about what the difference is. The membrane that is sensing the sound waves in a ribbon microphone is a thin piece of metal suspended in there, and it's being hit and vibrating. It's traditionally ribbon microphones were very delicate.
Oh.
All of your like much older music, go back to like Ray Charles and even much farther back, all that stuff is ribbon microphones, and all those things tend to be very delicate. Ribbon microphones are traditionally dynamic. They don't require phantom power. In fact, most older ribbon microphones, if you turn on phantom power, you'll destroy the ribbon.
You'll destroy the ribbon, right?
There are modern ribbon microphones that will take phantom power, which is
Unleaded only.
Unleaded only, which is what we're about to talk about. So, but ribbon microphones typically, if you look at a frequency response, they're going to roll off some top end, which I think Andrew is probably about ready to demonstrate.
Yes, sir. That's a bit quiet still, isn't it? Go ahead and give you a bit more gain.
There you go. Do you hear how the top end of just his voice alone right now? Like you can hear you're getting a little more kind of throaty mids, and the top end of his voice is not as bright.
Yeah. And the I'm being very careful not to put gusts of air into this thing. The passive ribbons are very quiet, so you need a lot of gain on your preamp. So it is just so incredibly smooth. You get that nice warmth in the low mids. It's incredible.
What do those microphones run?
These are $700.
Yeah, it is the best $700 you'll spend.
Yeah.
If you're in that world where you can spend $700 on a microphone. Ben has a handful of them. He also uses them on guitar cabinets, on electric guitar cabinets.
Oh my
They're
gosh.
spectacular for an electric guitar cabinet.
Yeah. I was surprised by that because I always heard, okay, with electric guitars, 57 R121. So
Right.
I was just trying this out. I was like, I'm going to throw this a little bit closer to the cone than I'm normally comfortable with. And the sounds that I got were insanity. It sounds so good just by itself. I didn't need a 57.
Sometimes do you find yourself when you find like a really good microphone, you're just giddy like a kid in a candy store, and you're just like this is how nerdy this could get. Like, in fact, when I send a calendar invite to everybody, I think I called this episode Nerd Fest or Nerd Night or something like that, because that's like the four of us right here overly excited about these silly little things called microphones.
A good, another good alternative for a little less money would be like the Cascade Fathead is a popular ribbon mic that's really cool. I have one. I was going to grab it. It's around here somewhere. For a little more, another one that I like is the AT4081.
Oh yeah,
as an active ribbon mic, so it will take a bit higher SPLs. You don't have to worry about storing it on its side and some of the things you have to traditionally worry about with ribbons, but you can see in here, you can actually see the ribbon, the piece of metal that's suspended in there. That's why I was trying to grab it to show.
So on that topic, and while we're talking about different price points, I mean,
I want to show you all my pointy guitars.
Yeah, which aren't worth anything to anyone. So, no, but when it comes to, especially delicate microphones like ribbon mics and things that are thought of being delicate, and these, sort of hallowed names in larger diaphragm microphones like, U67s, U87s, what is it that you're getting with the price for the people that may be wondering, like, you're showing us a biodynamic M160, but then there's a Royer R121, which is more than double the price, but is extremely popular in the recording community. So, Bandrew, like, what is it that you're getting if you take that dive and go a little further with, say, those two microphones, for example,
That is a great question, and I'm sure Gabe could disagree with me on this, but my mindset on the more expensive stuff, it may not be the right choice. So when you're buying that more expensive microphone, it is to get that specific sound faster so that you waste less time. Because when you're in the studio, it's all about just, okay, I need to get this idea out now. The inspiration is here. I want to get it out. As opposed to, well, I have this amazing idea. I'm inspired. Oh gosh, I'm gonna try. No, that microphone doesn't work. I need to EQ this. I need to boost it 5 dB. So it's about streamlining and wasting as little time as possible, removing the barriers between your brain, your hands, and the actual recording. So that's what I view of as the more expensive gear.
I won't disagree with that, actually, Andrew. And in fact, I'll kind of, I would even expand on it in that when Bandrew is talking about this, one of the things he's talking about is from the inception of the idea to the point of expression and capturing it. I always say, and you guys have heard me say a million times, it matters so much more where you put a microphone than what microphone you use. And that's totally true, and I will stand by that till the day I die. I mean, you can use 57s for everything and still make a great record. However, having an assortment of things that are of higher quality or that do different things can often translate into capturing what you're trying to capture quicker and more accurately. And that's kind of what Bandrew's talking about. When you're trying to capture a really great acoustic guitar sound and specifically capture your guitar, specifically capture somebody's voice, being able to set up a microphone and do that quickly, and without having to do a ton of work in post, a lot of EQ work, a lot of compression work, a lot of fixing things, is, you'll hear people say they're going to fix it in the mix. And the idea of having good quality things up front and starting with good quality means you spend less time trying to do that. So you're getting, you've heard the expression garbage in, garbage out. I don't exactly mean that, because you can use cheap mics. You totally can.
Yeah, totally.
You've heard Bandrew say, you can use, Behringers. Like, you can make a whole record with those.
I'll demo this in a little bit just to show that you can get decent sound. This costs $30.
Yeah, I love it.
But I'll demo it.
Exactly. So, but when he's using other things, he will get a more accurate picture of what he's trying to accomplish. And that's one of the things we talk about a lot when we're talking about pickups and, pedals and all kinds of other things is, what are you trying to accomplish? What's your goal? The original question before we went into talking about ribbon mics was about the brightness of steel strings, kind of that bright steel. And so we started talking about ribbon mics because they roll off that top end. So you're accomplishing that fix on the way in, which means you're smoothing out that thing that you don't like, that you naturally do. Maybe you play with a thinner pick, and so you're hearing that scratch of the pick and that brightness a bit more than somebody like who's playing with a 1.5, So you're rolling that off for yourself already going in, and it's going to smooth out what you do. Just like using a compressor or anything else, you're capturing it that way. And that's the benefit.
Oh, more demos.
Absolutely. Okay, so because you mentioned the 57, perfect lead into demoing a dynamic. I love that Ben pointed this out because people swear by the 57 for voiceover, just for everything. And listening to Ben on the last mic episode, he said, yeah, I like the 57. It doesn't sound good on voice. It sounds great on snare, but voice, not so much. But,
Right.
okay, this is going to be a demo of a very standard, probably the stereotypical dynamic, so you can hear how this sounds.
So as you listen to that, mentally go back in time and think about what the last microphone sounded like and the microphone before that, and the things that sound to you like what an acoustic guitar, what a 517 is supposed to sound like, and what gets you there the fastest. With a dynamic mic, it's all about the sound pressure level coming at it. So the first thing you hear is the string on the pick on the strings.
Yeah.
If that's your goal, is to just have that in the middle of a big busy mix, then there's your solution.
Yeah, so with dynamics, I hear them typically sounding a bit more artificial, and a lot of them are very boosted, as somebody pointed out, boosted in the mid-range, very bright in the presence region. So you are getting this really forward sound, and for some applications, that's exactly what you want. For solo acoustic instruments, maybe what you want, but for me, that's not what I'm reaching for.
Right. Right.
So that
What else you got?
I did large diaphragm, small diaphragm, ribbon, dynamic. If we have, I have a bunch more mics. We could demo the SM81. We could demo, I don't have a clip for that.
I would love to hear the SM81 and then maybe do a summary of what we talked about. And then maybe go into interfaces just a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll kind of close out the show there. I think that it's so much information that the four nerds on screen could talk for 48 hours, and we could record an audio book.
Maybe we should all get together in a room one day and create a video covering these mics for the Taylor channel. That would be great.
100%.
100% down. I love this idea.
Okay, I'm going to do two more samples because I said I almost forgot the Behringer, just a demo. I'll start with the 81 and then the C2. So let me go ahead and switch these out.
All right.
There are a couple. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say, Gabriel, while he's getting all set, one question that, we're talking about and this is going to be a dumb question because there's really no answer to it except for there's no wrong answer. But what mics should not be used when you're doing a solo acoustic recording or recording an acoustic guitar, in your opinion? Like what would be improper to use?
Man, I mean, obviously something meant for like a kick drum, I probably would not pick up.
Like an AKG,
or like a Beta 52 or yeah, like I would not use things like that because those are specifically designed to be around, low end.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's more about understanding what, and this is again why I like Bandrew's YouTube channel so much, because it's such a good resource for this, understanding what microphones do and matching those to what your goal is. The other thing is, it's so easy to gear chase. We're huge guitar nerds, and Mike just bought several guitars, and I am talking about getting a couple new guitars very soon. And so it's very easy to gear chase a lot. But
tomorrow, what? Sorry.
But deciding what is going to work the best for your application is such an important part. And sometimes it's hard to do that without trying things. I think, like Bandrew's channel is such a great resource to have. I also think sometimes there are go-to things like, Bandrew's going to demo the SM81. Like that's a mic you can get, and even if it's not your cup of tea on acoustic guitar, it's a microphone you can use on a million things for a really long time. Like it's just a good utility player. And that is one of the places I kind of always tell people to start at. So I'm sorry that's not a great answer to your question of what not to buy, Mike. I mean, I probably would say don't buy an SM57 for acoustic guitar. I would say don't buy an SM7B for an acoustic guitar, probably. I know people use them. It wouldn't be my pick. An SM81 is a good pick.
I think a good jumping off point, or at least a push in the right direction, would be starting with condensers for acoustic instruments.
Yeah.
I'll get asked a lot, like, I can only buy one mic and I need to be able to use it for vocals and acoustic guitar. What should I get? I'll get asked that often, and we'll hold that question and we'll re-ask it, and we can talk about that in a minute, actually.
Do you have the 81? Is that what's up?
The 81's up.
Oh, it's such a good mic. Listen to it, everybody. I'm excited about this mic.
Just listen when I play a little bit softer. Just it picks up all those tiny details. That's what's amazing about the small diaphragm condensers. All the subtle nuances.
And the
supremely articulate.
Yeah,
really
the
articulate.
balance on the SM81, you can hear in Bandrew's like pick on the strings, but in a pleasant way. It's not in an offensive way. It's bothering my ears, but I'm also hearing the really rich mid-range of the guitar, and it's very balanced, kind of across the whole spectrum. I'm kind of getting everything.
So I would recommend against buying microphones based on the frequency response graphs, because that is not the full story. But if you're looking for a more natural sound and you take a look at those graphs, if you see a flat line, that's going to give you a more natural sound. If you see a big bump in the top end, that's going to come across a bit brighter, maybe a bit harsher, a bit more artificial, a bit more unpleasant. And especially if you're trying to avoid that pick sound, you don't want, or you likely won't want, that big boost in the top end. So flatter lines better if you want the natural sound.
Do you want to switch over to the other one? While he does that, I want to also note that it's important to understand where the thing you're trying to record lives. We've talked
What do you mean by that?
Guitar is a mid-range instrument. Guitar lives in the mid-range. So we've talked before about like the controls on just a basic mixing board. The low frequency knob that's at like 80 hertz. The lowest note on an open tune, standard tune acoustic guitar is like 83.
Right.
Like that knob is doing very little. It's just removing stuff under, or boosting stuff under what the fundamentals of the acoustic guitar are doing. And the high knob is usually like 10,000 kilohertz. So it's like way above the sound of an acoustic guitar. So understanding where does the thing live and how is that going to affect what I'm capturing is really key and really important. Understanding where your voice lives and where the guitar lives. Somebody's asking in the comments about,
you're going to pull it up?
Sam,
Yeah. Cool. Great. What a segue.
What a segue about the mid-range on his guitar competing with his voice. And a microphone that naturally scoops that. Microphones in general, most of the time, are not going to scoop mid-range frequencies on your voice.
No.
Voice, like guitar, is a mid-range instrument. Most of the voice is in the mid-range. About 100 hertz is kind of the really low frequencies for human voices and kind of for guitars. And so, you'll hear us talk about rosewood guitars having a scooped mid-range and the voice fitting really well in there. Mahogany guitars are very mid-rangey,
right?
But they still tend to go well with voices for like rhythm sounds. So I would probably tell you instead to look at like the low mid-range frequencies. Depending on the sound of your voice, you might want to look at the low mid-range frequencies, like between 250 and 500, and you might want to roll those out, like scoop those out of the guitar a little bit, just to make a little room for the voice.
Yeah. Interestingly, I record more with mahogany guitars, but then when you put a vocal in there, that is the fix it in the mix scenario that we're talking about, right? You may want a certain a sound that you're trying to achieve with a guitar, and then you have a certain sound that you're trying to achieve with a voice, both being instruments in the mid-range. So that's where you can come in and craft that. Hey, Gabe, this is a great one. So do I throw away my AT 2020 large condenser to record acoustics?
I have one right here. I will demo. I wasn't going to do a bunch of... I'll demo this after. Don't throw it away. It's fine. It's fine.
It's a mic.
It's a fine microphone.
Yeah, I'll demo this afterwards.
One of my mics when I was talking a little while ago. I'll show you another microphone that is one of those things in that range that when people ask me if I could only buy one mic, what should I buy? I have a couple suggestions that I will show you in a little bit. I don't want to cut off Bandrew's time to demo these because I think it's important that you hear these differences.
Demo time.
So this is what you get for $30. If I knew this back when I was recording with a $30 or $50 Radio Shack Dynamic, my mind would be blown.
We're not laughing at you, Bandrew. Paul Tobias is in the feed talking again.
He did. I'm not his favorite mic. So
no, you're not his favorite mic, obviously.
Oh, you're at least his third favorite mic.
Yeah, I got to be top 3.
But so you hear the difference in that microphone. Does it capture the sound of a guitar? Yes. It's much brighter than
a lot brighter.
The SM81. It's much brighter. It's capturing much less low end. And that's because the components in the microphone are not designed to capture all of that frequency range. They're capturing the transients, which means the initial hit of the thing, the fundamentals. But can you use it? Yeah. Can you move the mic around to try and help cure some of that brightness and fix some of that and do some EQ in post and make it workable? Of course you can. It's just more work than having something else. And that's kind of the difference that we're talking about. And I think Bandrew is now hooking up an AT 2020, which is cool because this is another one of those like budget mics that a lot of people start with.
It's another one of the good ones, man.
You're muted, Bandrew.
He's back there singing. He's singing.
No, I was just making sure I was leveled decently. And I didn't want you to hear, hey.
He was also saying, you're also my third favorite mic.
Well, I was 4th until today, so I'll take that.
Yes.
4th favorite mic.
Yeah, I've moved up to 3rd.
It's our
I'm going to change my name to Mike. I bet you I'll be more of his favorite.
Hey.
It's a good mic, man.
Not terrible at all. Totally workable.
Totally usable. You can totally record a guitar with that.
Yeah.
Interestingly, again, you can record a guitar with anything. It's what is your goal? And fast forward to, man, there's a lot of fixing that we got to do with that. I mean, Gabe understands fixing. He mixes audio that we record here at Taylor Guitars. And, when we're doing this show live, most of the Cessna airplanes were right next to a regional airport. And so usually it's like during the day it would be meow, meow, and Gabe has to fix that pitch change and kind of bounce that out of audio that we record right in this room.
Remove HVAC noise, factory sounds,
factory vibrations. It's just incredible what you got to record and what you hear through microphones. But that microphone right there is a fantastic mic. How much is AT 2020?
$100. Yeah, $100. So I do want to get into as Bandrew's hooking back up, and I really want to get his feedback on this question. But people will often ask,
Feedback.
I can only get one microphone. What should I get? So I have a couple suggestions that are worth looking at. AT4040 is a totally usable professional series mic. These are like $300, I think. You can use them on vocals. You can use them on guitars. I often use them on drum overheads. I've used them on as room mics, amps, all kinds of stuff. They're a totally workable, perfectly good, just utility player of a microphone. The other thing you can do is if you're on a budget and you're like, man, I can't spend $300 on a mic. You can shop for used mics on Reverb.
Absolutely.
A favorite used mic on Reverb that everybody sleeps on, and I talk about these a lot. Do you have one?
That's the
newer version. It's a little slightly different. This is the Shure KSM 27. This is a US made Shure microphone, and the back up here in one of these metal cases I have a KSM 44, which is another like high-end Shure USA. They're like $1,000. Yeah. The KSM 44 has two capsules in it because it'll do bidirectional and omnidirectional. This is one capsule of that $1,000 microphone in cardioid pattern, and it's fantastic. This is a great microphone.
How much are those?
You can buy these for like used on like Reverb for $150 all day long.
That's the cool thing.
Wow.
People sleep on the used microphone market.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm about to
it's-
put a bunch of stuff on Reverb that I don't.
When
need
I
anymore.
go to a Guitar Center or a Sam Ash or any store that sells used equipment, I go directly to look at microphones first.
Yeah. So Bandrew had the SM27 there, which is the newer version, I think.
This is the KSM 32. So this
the KSM 32, another one in that range.
Yeah, it's more of a they sprinkled unicorn farts on the top end. It is just so smooth and easy to listen to. It is fantastic.
The fart pedal.
People talk about. You'll hear people talk about that mic a lot.
Yeah, it's incredible. So when I was pulling out all the mics, I was like, okay, what is my desert island microphone locker? KSM 32 for around $500 is one of them.
Yeah. There's a KSM. I just pulled up Reverb. There's a KSM 27 for $139 right now.
Not anymore. I just bought it.
There's a pair of them. You get a pair of these with shock mounts for $355 right now.
I may have to pick one up because I haven't used the 27 before.
They're
so
great.
good. So Bandrew, thank you for doing all those demos. But
Absolutely.
If you were to pick five, or let's do your top three out of what you chose.
Real quick, I want to get his feedback on that whole, like, if I could get
the one mic.
Should I get one? If I could only grab one microphone, like my budget only allows it, what should I grab?
So it would come down to what the application is. If they are just doing acoustic instruments, I would probably
let's say vocals and guitar.
Vocals and guitar for both of them. One
and
of
drums
and drums and okay.
Cajon.
So
An acoustic piano.
An acoustic piano and an electric piano, but I just want the
Sometimes a glockenspiel.
And a growling dog.
and a whisper.
there you go. So I think the AT4040 is a great recommendation. Another one that I love is the Rode NT1.
Yep.
It is more of a neutral sounding microphone. This goes for $270 for the 4th generation, but they just dropped the 5th gen XLR and they offer 32-bit floating point USB out, and that's $20 cheaper, $250. So that is one that I would go for. Or this is not my favorite because I like that more neutral sound, but people have just been raving about the LCT 440.
Yeah.
It has that brighter top end. It's going to have that boost, much more modern sounding, very poppy. So if you want that, LCT 440 is incredibly popular. And a lot of interesting stuff has been coming out of Austria with Lewitt and Austrian Audio.
Yeah.
Reason for that, Harman bought AKG, Samsung bought Harman, and Samsung shut down the Austrian AKG factory. So all that talent from AKG started Lewitt and Austrian audio. That's why we're seeing so much cool stuff come out.
Our buddy Nicholas
that's
Phoeniglu
interesting.
uses.
I think I knew that. Didn't we know that?
Our buddy Nicholas Phoeniglu uses an Austrian audio mic, and I can't specify for everyone, but I think it's that one. For what he does on an acoustic guitar, it is one of the best out of the box, just like guitar sounds I've ever mixed for him. I don't know if that's 100% for everyone, but man, does it sound beautiful. Like, I really want one to try it.
So if I could pick one microphone around $1,000 for everything, it probably would be the OC818 because it has dual capsule outputs. It has multiple polar patterns. It's a lot like the AKG 414, but not as harsh as the modern iterations. It's a lot smoother and sweeter sounding. So at around $1,000, I think it may be $1,200 now. That's what I'd go for.
Yeah.
Bandrew,
Very wonderful sounding mic.
Bandrew, we talk about that's a great recommendation. Now I'm probably going to go buy one because I'm sick in the head.
Well, you got to match your pointy guitars with it.
I'm going to shave the edges of the microphones, just make them very evil. Actually, that's why
weird paper mache.
I just get shock mounts to take care of the pointy portion of it. That's fun. They look evil within the shock mount. But one on a serious note, obviously, there were drum machines, right? And they sounded like drums and people used them. And then there was drum software that sounds like drums. And then there was guitar emulation and Fractal and Kemper and all these things. Well, over the past few years, Townsend Labs has come out with this Sphere microphone, which works with Universal Audio. I think Universal Audio actually bought them at this point. There's software that emulates all these other microphones, whether they be, small condenser mics or larger diaphragm mics or what have you. So what's your thoughts? I don't know if you've ever used it or reviewed it or what, but what's your thought on that?
I reviewed the Sphere L22. If you want the exact sound of these vintage classic microphones, it is not going to give you that. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You're not going to get the sound of $300,000 of microphones for $1,200. It gets you in the ballpark, though. And if you just want that flavor, if you just want to try it out, see what works best for you, it is great for that. It gets you close enough. Now, I don't have access to $300,000 of vintage microphones, but I did compare it. I may have that. I don't think I have that much. I did compare it against all of the actual microphones that I have that it emulates. On axis, it did decent. Off axis, it got much farther off than the actual thing. So it gets you in the ballpark, but it's not going to actually replace those mics.
And that's great to know. Because
the same holds true with the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because if people ask, well, maybe this will solve all my problems and it's $1,500 and I don't need a mic locker. I just need this and some plugins and I'm a happy guy. Now that does work a lot better with guitar and with drums. It's been proven. The fact that there's a microphone that's leading its way there is encouraging if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah. But it's, what I don't want is for somebody to think well, I just saw this one thing. I don't need to listen to them. I'll just get it. I mean, it's sort of like, would you agree with this analogy? I'm a New Yorker, so I'm a pizza snob. And when you go elsewhere to have pizza outside of New York, you're well, it's close, but it's not quite this. It's close. It's not quite this. I stopped thinking that. Now I'm thinking, I'm not going to look at this compared to New York pizza. I'm going to take this as it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fantastic way to look at microphones and to look at all the emulations that are out there, or I don't want to say knockoffs, the clones. Look at all the U87 clones out there.
There's a ton.
Do they sound like the U87? No. But if you just listen to them as a microphone and ignore that 87 moniker that's attached to them, some of them can sound pretty good, even though they don't sound like the 87.
Right.
So that L22 may not sound like all these classic microphones, but it can still sound fantastic.
So there was a good question back here by Ken. Ken wrote, he typed in here, That's good for $1,000. Sounds like a good pick, right? Exactly. How about $100? What's your deserted island guitar, microphone for $100? That general, it can do everything microphone.
Another SE Electronics, the SE7. It's about
Yeah.
120, I think. So if you give me a bit of leeway, please,
$120. That's good.
It's very similar to the SE8. You lose out on some of the functionality, but it is that more natural, more realistic small diaphragm condenser sound. And at $100, just sounds awesome. So if for acoustic guitar, that's what I was picking, that's what I would go for. As far as $100 for other stuff, like for a while there was an alternative to the AT2020, but that mic manufacturer discontinued it. They went up market. And at $100 still, the 2020 is now hard to beat. It doesn't have any direct competitors.
I can't wait to do an episode with headphones. Right? Because headphones are, we should do a headphones
So
episode.
nerdy.
I'm wearing like $700 headphones right now, but they are not that much better than my Sony 7506s. Like, what are they, $99? Like, that is a perfect studio headphone. I would love to do a headphone episode. Gabe, Mike, ooh, headphones. I'm down. You've got ultrasounds on, Gabe.
I do.
Yes, I can hear. My ears are trained. I can hear the difference, right? I know what I'm looking for, so this is why I'm wearing these headphones. However, it would be nice to do that, a little headphone episode, but there's no way to really test it. So we'll just tell everybody what we like, and then we'll move on.
Another great budget mic, friendly mic that I talk about a lot, and I have
He
personally
really
used.
wanted to say that because he just, like I said, headphones and tailed off, and he just like another
Yeah.
budget mic.
Bringing back. Sorry, I just thought
love
of this
it.
though. But this is a mic I've used extensively, and I've used it extensively in recording for Taylor. A lot of the acoustic sessions and sound checks and stuff. I've recorded Jason Mraz with it.
Telefunken.
Is the Audio Technica ATM 450. It's $279 new right now. It's a great little microphone. It's a side address small diaphragm, so it's a little bit of an outlier in terms of how the diaphragm is positioned, but it works great. Yes, the Telefunkens are kind of my mic of choice.
M60s,
now.
yeah.
The M60 FET are like my jam now.
Really? Okay.
I love them.
I'll have
Yeah,
to do
I
that.
would-
love them.
Because
I would
I
argue-
tried their LDC tube mics, and I was blown away by the 51. Just insane.
They're
So
great.
I'd love to try the
Yeah, the
SE1.
FET one is very articulate and very on. It'll keep you honest. But yeah, on a budget, the ATM 450, it's $279. If you can kind of hit up to that range or save up a little money, that I used that mic for years on lots of Taylor artists. Like I said, Jason Mraz, Allison Russell, all kinds of people I've recorded with that microphone, and you place it in the right spot, it's great.
Yeah, it's really the Hey, Bandrew, just so you know, the M60s, I would argue, are better than the KM84.
Really?
To my ears. Yeah, there's just it. That is some people are stuck with it has to be a Neumann, and so there's a lot of that. When we started filming all of those demos, that's what we had. So we kept it because it's a fantastic microphone. But apples to apples at 8 inches at doing exactly, I would, in retrospect, would have probably used M60 Telefunken.
I'm gonna have to look into that one.
They're
selling me.
great.
They're really, really wonderful. Gabe has used
I bought
them
a set of them a couple years ago, and that's what I've used. But up until I bought that set, the ATM 450s were what I used for all the Taylor content I shot.
All right. Speaking of Taylor content, this is going to be like a 4.5-hour episode if we don't get to audio interfaces and then Nathaniel's performance. So Real quick, Bandrew, I know you got a handful of them.
Yeah.
Without the audio interface, you can't really. I mean, yes, if it's a USB microphone, you can plug it right into your computer, which is fantastic. But most of us will use. I'm using a Focusrite Scarlett 2x2, just like you talked about. It's wonderful for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't need a bunch of reverb on this voice. You know what I'm saying right now? I have Universal Audio stuff, PreSonus stuff. I mean, I have a handful of different audio interfaces. I have an old M-Box.
No kidding.
It's my first interface.
Right.
Wow, old school.
Right. I have Gabe uses Motu. So there's a ton of it out there, and they're not that expensive.
No,
they're not that expensive. Sorry, real quick. Somebody was trying to FaceTime me.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't you for the first time.
It
was me. Yeah.
I missed
Anywho,
you.
so talk to us about audio interfaces real quick.
So as far as audio interface selection, before you select one, you need to understand what microphone you're using with it and what you're recording for. If you're recording with a low sensitivity ribbon or a dynamic, you're really going to need to pay attention to one or two specs. First one being EIN, equivalent input noise. That tells you how noisy the preamps are. And for low sensitivity mics, SM7B, Bayer M160, an EIN of around minus 127 dBA is going to be pretty usable for most applications. So that's where you need to focus there. Also, the max available gain. Some people say you need 70, some people say you need 60. If you're recording properly, as somebody said, one of the most important things to getting a good sounding recording is making sure you're not clipping. I recommend when recording shooting for around minus 18 to minus dB peaks, so it gives you plenty of headroom. So you don't need as much gain as a lot of people think. It's nice to have, but you don't need it. And the reason I said where you're going to be or what you're going to be recording for is if you're uploading to YouTube or just releasing podcasts or MP3s, nobody's going to notice. I did a video where I switched between a Behringer UM2, which is a $30 interface, to the Focusrite, to the Universal Audio. Nobody noticed the difference. Not a single person noticed until I pointed it out. So as far as average consumers, people just listening without putting their critical listening ears on, just trying to find something to rip apart, you're most likely going to be fine with almost anything.
Interesting.
If you're putting out MP3s or uploading to YouTube. If you're doing something more professional, releasing lossless, releasing music, $200 is where you're going to get pretty much everything that you need. And they all sound fantastic. It comes down to the feature set that fits your needs. So the first one, this is in no particular order. First one here is the SSL 2 Plus. If you follow audio, you know SSL. They make all the amazing consoles. This is their first foray into consumer level. Amazing preamp, so much gain, and you get the 4K switch, which is you get a little bit of saturation and a boost to the top end. So you get a little bit of actual, I won't call it processing, but you can adjust the sound of the microphone on the interface.
How much do those run?
This is $250, $270.
Oh my goodness, not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all. Since we talked about Universal Audio, they just released their more consumer-focused audio interface, the 276. This is very similar to the SSL2, but they added the 76 style compressor. So you don't have a lot of control over it. It's quite limited with what you can do, but you can add a bit of that 1176 style compression. They have vocals, guitar, or fast settings. That's all you have. And then they have a vintage mode, which is going to emulate a bit of that LA 610, the Universal Audio 610 preamp, which is their classic tube pre from the 60s.
Vintage mode, Gabe. That's kind of like the Detroit Tigers in 1984.
Is that the last time they won?
Oh.
Do I need to step out of the way? Is there going to be a fight?
There won't be a fight.
I'm
It's
gonna
fine.
get a DM on Instagram from Nancy later about that. Jay's mom trolls me on Instagram about sports.
Oh,
teams. It's
amazing.
great.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, keep going.
All right. Then Audient is one of the best interface manufacturers out there. The thing that really stood out to me, they have amazing preamps. They make amazing analog consoles, but I love the DI section of their interfaces. I think it's my favorite of any that I've tried. Just sounds so clear. I love this thing. So that's a feature here for this that I would recommend. And then Gabe uses Motu. The final interface that I recommended is the Motu M2. You could do Motu M2, Motu M4. Again, these all have fantastic preamps, plenty of gain, low EIN, low noise. The Motu has, this is going to sound silly, but this is a huge feature for me. It has an on-off button, so you can actually turn it off without unplugging the interface. And then just fantastic meters. This is a full color screen right here with actually very usable meters. So that is the final interface that I would recommend. I mean, the Focusrite stuff, that's $120 for a solo, and you're going to be getting more than usable sound. If you want a little bit more bells and whistles, more of a buy it once and I'll use this for 15 years as long as it's still updated and doesn't fail, this is where you'd be looking. But I have been using the Focusrite stuff since 2015. That's been my go-to.
Yeah, I mean, they're great. They're really good for the money.
Just to point out one thing with interfaces, I think it's very important to note that when you buy one, you get one that in an IO format that matches up with your system. Because there's Thunderbolt, there's USB 3, there's lots of, if you're using a Mac, there's different inputs. If you use a PC, different inputs. Some have both, but you want to have something that's going to work with your other hardware. Otherwise, it's just going to look really cool sitting on your shelf.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah,
and
that is
something that I learned very early on regarding interfaces and DAWs and recording. Make sure that all the sample rates are set appropriately so you don't have any kind of sample rate mismatches and get some kind of Fred Flintstone sounding deep voice.
interesting. Robert said something earlier. I think he might be referring to wanting to do a show on DAWs, recording software, digital audio workstation. I think that's great. I think that idea, because there's so many different pieces of software. We often hear Pro Tools, and lately there's been a lot of Pro Tools Logic, and I mean, I use Ableton Live for some stuff.
I
use Pro Tools.
That's all I use.
I use Pro Tools a lot if I'm recording something in. I use Cubase. Cubase is arguably the best for MIDI. I'll fight somebody on that one. That one's true. I'm right, 100%. I'm just kidding. For me, I'm right. You kind of got to go back to, Gabe has said it many times. What's the goal? What is your goal on what you're doing? And, I heard somebody the other day talk, it was actually Tyler, the Creator, talking. He was in a podcast and he was in an interview about somebody saying, what's your top 5 albums? And he was like, I don't care about, it doesn't matter to me what your top 5 are. It should matter to you what your top 5 are, right? And it was just really well said. And it's the same thing with look, GarageBand works for me.
I made a record. When I was starting out, I made a whole record in GarageBand.
Gabe, I needed to record a voiceover for you the other day in Spanish. What do you think? I opened up Pro Tools? Heck no, I opened up my template in GarageBand and went zing, zing, zing and sent it to you. I mean, GarageBand's fantastic. Reaper, fantastic. A lot of the live audio guys record using Reaper because Reaper really accepts all your outboard gear really, really well. I mean, I do like the idea of doing an episode though on recording software. I mean, it would be long and nerdy. It would be a 5.5 hour podcast.
I'll pull
Yeah,
up the
it
I
would
Know What
be
Love
like
Is session again and
Oh my goodness. We'll do that. Bandrew,
break my computer.
you're incredible, man. You're a wealth of knowledge. I love the fact that you started just doing this, and you're this wonderful educational location on the internet where people can go. I love why you're doing it. Like, cut the BS. I'm just going to tell you what it is, and it'll help you get closer to what you're looking for. I mean, every time, this is the second time you've been on the show. I learn a lot from you. It's really interesting. I learn a lot from Gabe all the time. I learn a ton from Mike. A lot about pointy guitars, but
that's all I know.
no,
all
but
I know.
it's super interesting having these conversations, even though they go long. I hope out there somewhere it's helping you. Does Ableton Live suck or it works? Ableton Live is incredible.
It's amazing.
You need to figure it again. It goes back to what's the goal? What's
Yep.
the goal of it all? I mean, Gabe uses Logic. You did the whole
Logic too.
I Know What Love Is session in Logic, correct? Do you use Logic, Bandrew?
Yeah, Logic as well.
What do you use, Mike? Strictly Ableton?
I use Ableton Live, and I use that. It's funny because Ableton Live is something that a lot of people use for MIDI. Like, it interfaces well with Novation gear and things like that. I use it for straight recording.
Yep.
The only time I interface with it is if I interface Reason with it. But even Reason has a multi-track recorder built into
Now.
it. Now
Right.
it does.
Now
You know,
it does.
so-
Remember when it was just a drum machine?
Yeah, it was just a cool drum machine. but
Really
a drum
cool.
machine nonetheless. But yeah, I mean, and people, love Ableton, but they use it for DJs love Ableton. I'm not a DJ. I record metal on it, and it works perfect for me. I love it.
Yeah, Ableton's fantastic.
I think that the DAW you choose, prefacing the idea of doing a whole episode talking about these, I think they're great. I think that if you've never used one before, they're all the same, roughly the same amount of difficult. Something like GarageBand is probably, or like Pro Tools First, things like that are probably the easiest ones. But you're just getting into an ecosystem, and you've got to learn the ecosystem on anything. And they're all kind of roughly the same amount of difficult. It's just there's a learning curve, and you'll get there. Dope.
Yeah, when people switch DAWs, that is the one thing, is the muscle memory. That's the one thing that you really have to learn, the steps, the clicks. And and Gabe is absolutely right. If you haven't used anything, it's going to be just as hard no matter which one you start with. There are some that might be easier to do something, but then when you start getting into the depth of it, learning the power of it, when you're done with scratching the surface, it's all that muscle memory and clicking on things and where things are routed. That's what's going to differentiate one from the other. And that's why people hate switching.
100%.
Yeah, people get in. The learning curve it can be steep. But
You guys
people,
can, if you have questions about recording, like, come find it. I mean, certainly you can reach out to me. My Instagram handles and the little title thing. Go watch Bandrew's channel and learn from what he's doing. He talks so much about equipment and shows you so many great so much great insight into recording and what things do and how to use them. I highly recommend. Like I said, I've watched his channel for quite a while before he ever made it on Primetime the first time, and I was like, yes, Bandrew's going to be on.
when he has new videos, you've done a couple recently. That's why I really, really wanted you to talk about the interface. I saw one recently about interfaces that it was just spectacular. Yes, Podcastage. That is it, Phil. It's so fantastic. It's
Wow.
And put those, subscribe to it. Put those reminders on it. Click that little bell. I think you got to click, right?
Yeah, I think
Every
so.
time.
I don't think I've ever screamed that on my main channel, but
I mean, sometimes we're trying to help you out, but it's
I
perfect
really
because
appreciate that.
man, you do what everybody wish they had time to do. So I do have a question about how you find time to do all of this, but
That's a
how
good
do you? I
question.
mean, when do you do this? And I mean, you have a
I
job, like
Yeah, I have a full-time. I have no life. So
oh,
I work a 40-hour day job, and then pretty much every evening I spend 4 to 5 hours testing gear and then working on the next video because I used to be able to crank one out in 2 days, but I started feeling guilty. Am I spending enough time getting to know it? So I try to spend 20 to 30 hours with each mic before I do a video on it. So it just
this
takes
is
up
the
the entire
best.
evening. But
This is the definition of
Dedication.
primetime nerd.
well, it's
You're a
just trying to
primetime nerd.
provide information that I didn't have, and it's not the sexiest topic. Doesn't do the best on YouTube, but it's a library, so that the next person who's starting doesn't feel so overwhelmed. They can maybe be able to just get that piece of gear that makes sense for them and then make something super cool. Make some music that changes the world. Maybe not the whole world, maybe it changes their world, does something. So I'm just
I
hoping
mean,
that's what it does.
I appreciate it. Whenever I'm looking for a microphone to potentially purchase or think about using, I go directly to your channel and I search to see if you've done something about that microphone. It's actually,
I've totally
Thank
done
you.
that too.
yeah.
Thank you very much. By the way, talking about microphones, so I
That's so good.
Oh God.
so I
With
did
the eye
a
of Sauron there.
I did a video with the Lewitt LCT 1040, and I was using the 517. And Lewitt commented on it. They're like, "Oh my God, that guitar sounds so good. What is it? We need to know what it is." So it was the right pick with the 517E. Just had
Well,
to let you know other
you can
companies
connect
are loving
Lewitt
you.
with us if you need to.
I'll do what I can. Yeah.
Yeah, because we love that kind of content out there in this world. Anyway, it has been a 1 hour and 56 minute and 47 second podcast live show. For the most of this episode, you all have stuck with us, and we really appreciate that. 2 minutes of sports was going to be pretty simple. We were going to talk about Le Mans. Ferrari won again in the first time in 50 years. That's really exciting. NASCAR entered. I don't know if you pay attention to motorsports, but this was a big deal for the first time. NASCAR threw a car in the Classic, and the Nuggets won the championship last night, if you guys are basketball fans.
Also, my Cleveland Guardians won this Sunday while I was at the game with my kids and my wife, and it was rad.
100% of one person on this feed cares about that. And,
Yes.
well, actually, on this show,
I'm
cares
happy
about.
to be an audience of one.
Did you get a Guardians hat? Is that a new one? A Cleveland team hat?
This is the one I've had since last season. I need to get a new one.
It probably smells like the last time the Tigers beat the Guardians.
That was a long time ago.
I just picked up this one on Friday, Pirates versus Mets, and the Pirates trounced the Mets, and it could not have made me happier.
Who was pitching? Was it a former Tiger?
No. It was
Okay,
not a
then
former
that's
Tiger.
fine. It's okay if they. Anyway,
Yeah, it was not Scherzer.
this has been fantastic. Next week Mike had a really good idea that we're gonna start doing some interactive playlist stuff. We're not going to do it this week because it would take another 45 minutes.
Amen.
We really, really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. So we have a special performance. Our good friend Nathaniel Murphy, you've seen him on CME's channel, Chicago Music Exchange channel, doing demos for them. Did a performance of a song by Bruce Springsteen. And I am really excited to play it for you. It's about 3 minutes long, and then we'll come back and say goodbye, and we'll sign off for the night. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, as they say, here's our good friend Nathaniel Murphy. 2, 3. So the best part about that, it was filmed upstairs in the office where everybody was working, and they were on like Zoom meetings. So we intentionally left that in the end. They were straight up having Zoom meetings, and we went up there and we're just like, we're going to record real quick. Boom. They're like, do we need to be quiet? And I was like, no. Actually, I think it would be really cool if you guys continued your Zoom meeting during this performance. That was awesome.
Wow.
So great
He's just
mix,
so good.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah,
mix.
that sounded incredible.
Great guitar, great player. Fun to mix.
Yeah, he is a wonderful, wonderful talent. And anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very fun 2 hours and 3 minutes. One of our longer shows, we get it, but this is a topic that it's near and dear to our nerd hearts. My mom is happy because she said at least I get to watch the show longer.
Hey, we got a 2 minutes of sports update. The Vegas Golden Knights have just won the Stanley Cup
Yeah.
for the first time in their history.
Hey, but they went to the finals the first year.
The first year they were in it, yeah.
Yeah, and
but now
lost.
they finally won. Oh,
My mom and I kind of would agree with that sometimes, right? We're just like, what is going on here, man?
Just barely.
We had like a 9-game losing streak until we hit a walk-off yesterday. Boy, oh boy. Anyway, at least we're not the Guardians. Okay, Bandrew, it's been so great hanging out with you. We appreciate it. We are definitely going to have you back on the show 47 and a half more times.
Anytime.
If we have 47 and a half more episodes.
What's the
Thank
half?
you so much for having me.
What's the half?
Yeah.
That's a good question, but we'll figure it out.
We'll split it up between him and Nathaniel.
Yeah, there we go. Him and Nathaniel. You'll be
Okay.
on for half, and Nathaniel will be on for half. That's a great.
Perfect.
Idea. Night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We know it's late in some parts of the world. We appreciate your time. Mike, as always, it's fantastic hanging out with you. Gabe,
Thank you, sir.
great to see you, even though you're a Guardians fan. I'm just kidding, man. I'm glad you got to go to a baseball game. What a joy.
First
You're
one in a
so-
long time.
You're great, Bandrew. We appreciate you. Go
Thank you,
subscribe
Bandrew.
to Podcastage.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Go
I
check
will
out
put the
Bandrew's
link.
channel.
There's a link in the description of this episode, so you can click down and just click that and subscribe. Give our friend Bandrew some love. All
Thank
right,
you so
everybody.
much.
We love you. I didn't know Vegas had a hockey team. Yeah, they just won the Stanley Cup. There we go. All right, everybody. Till next time.
All right. See you, nerds.